Welcome, spicy lady. You know what's wild? There's a man out there right now sitting at dinner with his wife, and something she said just reminded him of a spicy lady Sigma. Not because they were together, maybe they were just coworkers, maybe old friends, maybe they crossed paths for one short season, and that was it. But she said something or didn't say something, and his mind went straight there. That spicy lady Sigma, to how she moved, to how she spoke, to how she made him feel like he had to actually try, and his wife noticed the look on his face, and she'll never know why. That's what happens when a woman is a spicy lady Sigma. She doesn't try to become the standard. She doesn't put in effort to be unforgettable. She just is, naturally, completely without trying. And today we're going to talk about exactly how that happens. 9 real, deep, honest reasons why the spicy lady Sigma becomes the woman every man quietly measures every other woman against for the rest of his life. Stay with me, because this one is going to hit different. If a spicy lady Sigma is new here, welcome. This channel is for women who don't fit the mold, women who move differently, think differently, and live life fully on their own terms. There are no games discussed here, no manipulation, no tricks, just real conversations, the kind of things most people are thinking, but nobody ever actually says out loud. If that's where the spicy lady Sigma lives, hit subscribe, because we drop real content for real women every single week. And if a spicy lady Sigma has been here for a while, she already knows exactly what we're about. Let's get into it. Before we get into the 9 ways, let me paint a clear picture. Most women spend their whole lives trying to be chosen. They adjust themselves. They make themselves smaller. They laugh louder when they're not really that amused. They agree when they actually disagree. They dress a certain way, talk a certain way, post certain things, all to get someone to pick them. And some of them get picked, and some of them get married. But here's what nobody tells them. The man who picks those women, he still has a woman in his head that he's measuring them against. And 9 times out of 10, that woman is a spicy lady Sigma. Not because the spicy lady Sigma is better than other women in some ranking way, but because the spicy lady Sigma is different in a way that leaves a mark. A real mark. The kind that doesn't wash off, no matter how much time passes. She wasn't chasing him. She wasn't performing. She wasn't trying to be impressive. She was just herself, fully, without apology. And he has never, not once, met another woman like that since. Let's talk about why. Way number 1, the spicy lady Sigma never begged for his attention. And he's still thinking about that. Let's start here, because this one is the foundation of everything else that follows. The spicy lady Sigma doesn't blow up his phone. She doesn't double text. She doesn't rearrange her entire schedule just to be available whenever he decides he wants to reach out. She doesn't sit by her phone anxiously waiting for him to decide she's worth his attention that day. She has her own life, a real, full, purposeful life. And she lives it completely whether he shows up or not. For most men, that is completely new territory. Most men have spent years around women who treat them like the sun. Like without them, everything stops. Like they are the center of someone else's entire universe. And at first, a man loves that feeling. It feeds something deep inside him. It makes him feel important, needed, central. Like he matters more than anything else in someone's world. But over time, that same dynamic starts pressing down on him. He starts feeling suffocated. He starts pulling back, not because he stopped caring, but because he needs air. He needs space to breathe without someone's entire emotional world depending on his next text, his next call, his next decision. The spicy lady Sigma never puts that weight on him. She is warm when he's around, genuinely warm, not cold, not distant, not performing some mysterious act to seem more interesting. But when he isn't there, she is completely fine. She has her girls' dinner. She has her solo Saturday mornings with hot coffee and music she actually loves. She has her gym routine, her goals, her creative work, her own clear sense of direction. Her world keeps moving, and it doesn't stop for anyone. He feels that quiet independence, that deep settled sense of she doesn't need me to be okay. She doesn't need me to complete her. She is already complete on her own, and she has always known it. And something inside him shifts without him even realizing it has happened, because every other woman he has known has made him feel like a utility, like his job is to show up and fill some hollow place inside her life. But the spicy Lady Sigma doesn't have hollow places. She has a full, alive, meaningful life, and she is simply open to including someone who is genuinely worth her time. That is a fundamentally different thing. And that difference changes how a man sees a woman all the way down to his core. When a man realizes a woman doesn't need him, something involuntary inside him starts to want her, not out of games or strategy, out of a real deep pull he cannot fully explain even to himself. He starts wondering what it would actually take to matter to someone who is already whole without him. He starts showing up with more intention, more effort, more genuine presence. Not because she demanded anything, but because something deep in him wants to earn a place inside a life that doesn't have an empty space just waiting to be occupied, and that pull never fully fades. He carries it quietly always. Way number 2. The spicy Lady Sigma was honest in a world full of performers. This one is about honesty, real honesty. The kind that feels almost shocking in a world where most people are constantly running some version of a performance. The spicy Lady Sigma says what she thinks. Not in a cruel way, not in a drama starting chaos creating kind of way, but in a clear, grounded, straight up way that most people have forgotten how to do if they ever really knew that if something was off, she said it. She didn't drop subtle hints and then sit back waiting for him to figure it out on his own. She didn't give cold one-word answers and expect him to read between the lines. She didn't smile politely and say everything was fine when everything clearly wasn't. She spoke directly with grace, but she always spoke that if she didn't like the plan, she said so and offered a better one. If he did something that bothered her, she told him clearly, without the silent treatment, without a week of emotional punishment, without making him walk on eggshells until he somehow landed on the right apology. She named what was wrong, said what she needed, and moved forward. And in a world where almost everyone is performing, saying the safe thing, giving the expected reaction, smoothing everything over just to keep the peace, that kind of direct honesty was like breathing clean air for the very first time. He could actually trust what came out of a spicy Lady Sigma's mouth. That might sound like a small thing, but sit with it for a moment. Think about how many conversations most men have where they are constantly trying to figure out what a woman actually means, where every compliment might secretly be a dig, where every I'm fine means the complete opposite, where every silence is loaded with something he is somehow expected to already know, where the rules keep shifting and nothing is ever just said plainly. The spicy Lady Sigma doesn't do any of that. She communicates like a grown adult and she expects the same in return. When she said she was good, she was good. When she paid him a compliment, he kept it because he knew she meant it. When she said she was proud of something he did, he felt it land because she wasn't just filling air. When she told him she was disappointed, he knew exactly what about, and he could actually do something about it. There was no decoding required, no second guessing, no walking on eggshells even after the conversation was over. That kind of clarity is something most men experience almost never, and once they feel it, they miss it every single day after it's gone. Because the alternative is exhausting. The alternative is years of conversations that feel like solving riddles without all the clues. The alternative is coming home and still not knowing what mood the room is in. The alternative is saying the wrong word and setting off something that was never actually about the word you said. The spicy Lady Sigma made communication feel safe. She spoke plainly. She respected him enough to be honest. She always did. Way number 3. The spicy Lady Sigma had a life he wanted to be part of. Not when she was waiting for him to build. Most women wait for a relationship to give them a life. The spicy Lady Sigma already has one. That is not a small difference. That is everything. When the spicy Lady Sigma moved through his world, she wasn't looking for someone to rescue her, complete her, or hand her a sense of purpose she hadn't built yet. She already had purpose. She had plans she was genuinely excited about. She had friendships that had been around long before he arrived. She had hobbies she had actually invested time and real money into. She had places she had already been and places on her list she was already planning to get to. She had conversations worth having and opinions worth hearing. She had a life that was genuinely alive, moving, going somewhere. And when he came into the picture, she didn't put her life on hold. She didn't quietly set aside her own plans just to be more available to him. She didn't build everything around his schedule and call it love. She simply let him in when it made sense and brought him along for the ride. That is a completely different experience than most men ever have. Most of the time, when a man enters a relationship, he can feel a woman start to center her entire world around his .at first. That might feel flattering, but very quickly it starts to feel like pressure. Like he is now responsible for her happiness, her social life, her sense of adventure, her whole reason to get out of bed in the morning. That weight is heavy. That weight slowly changes how a man moves through everything. The spicy Lady Sigma never handed him that weight. Her life was already full, already rich, already going somewhere real. And being invited into that kind of life felt like an actual gift, not an obligation, not a burden, but a genuine invitation into something worth showing up for. He wanted to be part of it, not because she pressured him, but because her world was a world worth being in. There was energy there. There was passion. There was direction. Okay, spicy Lady Sigma, pause for a second. If what the spicy Lady Sigma just heard in those first 3 ways is already hitting home, drop a yes in the comments right now. And if this is the kind of content the spicy Lady Sigma has been looking for, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more spicy Lady Sigmas around the world who need to hear this. Okay, let's keep going. Way number 4. The spicy Lady Sigma didn't fall apart when he pulled back. Every man, at some point, pulls back. It doesn't always come with an explanation. Sometimes he needs space. Sometimes he gets inside his own head. Sometimes something else is pulling his mental energy and he goes quiet. Not to punish anyone, not out of cruelty, just because that is where he goes when life gets heavy. And the real test, the moment that tells a man almost everything he needs to know about a woman, is what she does when he goes quiet. Most women panic. The silence sends them spiraling completely. They text more, call more, analyze every message they already sent. They replay the last conversation looking for what they must have done wrong. They ask their closest friends what it means. They start changing how they show up, being more available, more agreeable, more visible, trying to pull him back through sheer effort and presence. They become a version of themselves they don't even fully recognize. All because a man slowed down for a few days. The spicy Lady Sigma doesn't do that. She notices. She is not a robot. She feels things. She is human. But she doesn't change. She doesn't chase. She doesn't shift her whole energy and her whole behavior to match his withdrawal. She doesn't make his silence mean something is broken inside her. She simply keeps living. She goes to the gym. She keeps her dinner plans. She keeps working on whatever she was before he went quiet. She shows up for herself the same way she always does, with or without his full attention. And when he comes back, because he does come back, she is the exact same woman he left behind. Not bitter, not cold, not punishing him in return, not dramatically changed by his absence, just herself, still whole, still standing. And that groundedness is something most men have never seen up close in their lives, because the truth is most men consciously or not watch to see what a woman does when he withdraws even a little. They want to know, does she fall apart? Does she chase? Does she turn his temporary distance into a full crisis? When a woman panics, a man learns he has all the power. And having all the power in a relationship sounds good until it isn't, until it gets boring, until there's no real tension, until the woman he's with feels like someone he can manage instead of someone who genuinely challenges and interests him. The spicy Lady Sigma showed him something completely different. She showed him what it looks like when a woman trusts herself enough not to fall apart the moment things get uncertain. She showed him what a woman looks like who is secure enough in herself that another person's temporary distance doesn't send her whole world collapsing. He never forgot that, because the woman who doesn't chase is the woman he thinks about longest. The woman who panics, he eventually loses deep respect for even if he stays. But the one who stayed grounded, she becomes the one he measures everyone against. Way number 5. The spicy Lady Sigma made him work for something real without playing a single game. That, let's be very clear before this one even starts. This is not about playing hard to get. This is not about strategy. This is not about running some calculated game designed to keep a man chasing for the sake of ego satisfaction. That is not what the Spicy Lady Sigma does. That is not what this is about at all. This is about something much simpler, much more real. The Spicy Lady Sigma has standards, genuine ones, and she lives by them, not to build a reputation, not to impress anyone, not to seem more valuable on some social scale, but because she knows what she is worth, and she is not in the habit of discounting herself for anyone who simply shows up and pays attention. She didn't let a charming compliment open every door for her. She didn't move faster than she was actually ready to move just because he was persistent or attractive. She didn't give him access to her time, her energy, her body, her emotional world simply because he showed up consistently and said nice things. She watched first. She paid attention first. She noticed how he treated people who couldn't do anything for him. She noticed whether his words matched his actions across time, not just in the first few impressive weeks. She was warm. She was open. She was genuinely real with him, but she moved at the pace of her own trust, not the pace of his interest or his impatience. And because of that, every moment she gave him felt like it actually meant something real. He had shown enough of himself to earn a closer look. And that made every conversation, every moment of openness, every piece of herself she let him see feel significant, not routine. Men don't forget that feeling. They don't forget what it was like to actually reach for something that had real weight. Because think about everything in a man's life that came too easily. The things he didn't have to try for. The things that were handed to him without real effort on his part. How much does he value those things? How often does he think about them? How much space do they take up in his memory years later? Almost none. Now think about the things he actually worked for. The achievements that asked something real of him. The experiences where he had to grow to get there. The relationships where trust was built through consistent, honest action over time. Those are the things that stay with him. Those are the things that mean something deep long after the moment has passed. The Spicy Lady Sigma made him work, not by playing games, not by manufacturing distance or running hot and cold, but simply by having a real standard and living it with consistency. She didn't lower the bar because he was attractive or persistent. She didn't lower the bar because she was feeling lonely or afraid of missing out. She held the line gracefully, without making it a big production, without announcing it dramatically or making him feel punished for being interested. She just lived. Way number 6, the Spicy Lady Sigma was comfortable with silence, and that said everything. This one sounds small, but it is one of the most powerful things on this entire list. The Spicy Lady Sigma is comfortable with silence. Not the punishing kind, not the loaded passive-aggressive kind where the tension fills every corner of the room. Not the cold silence that's designed to make someone panic or reach out to apologize for something they can't even name. Just quiet, easy, natural. The kind of silence that doesn't need to be fixed. The Spicy Lady Sigma can sit in a moment and not feel any need to fill it with noise. She doesn't talk just to talk. She doesn't laugh at things that aren't actually funny. She doesn't perform enthusiasm for things she genuinely doesn't care about. She doesn't keep up a running commentary just to make sure the air never goes completely still. She is comfortable enough in her own skin to just be present. Without words, without performance, without filling every second with something designed to seem interested or engaged. And in a world that is completely relentlessly loud, where everyone is always broadcasting, always performing, always trying to prove something about themselves, that kind of quiet, settled confidence is genuinely magnetic. He could sit next to the Spicy Lady Sigma and it just felt good, easy real. Like he didn't have to be on. Like he could actually exhale and just be a regular person for a while. Most social moments require performance from everyone involved. You show up, you play your role, you keep the energy moving. But with the Spicy Lady Sigma, none of that was necessary. He could just be present near another person who was also just being present. That is rarer than most people realize, but here is the other side of that silence. The side that changed how he paid attention entirely. When the Spicy Lady Sigma did speak, he listened. Really listened. Not the half listening where you're already forming your response while the other person is still talking. Full, complete attention. because he had learned quickly that she didn't speak just to fill space. She didn't throw words around carelessly. She didn't say things she didn't mean. When something came out of her mouth, it was worth hearing. Her words had weight. When she paid him a compliment, he kept it. He thought about it later that night. When she gave him advice, he actually considered it seriously instead of filing it away and forgetting it. When she told him something wasn't right, he took it seriously because he knew she wasn't saying it for drama or for attention or to feel powerful. She was saying it because she meant it, and that is a completely different relationship with language than most men ever experience with anyone. Most people say a lot without really saying anything. Most conversations are full of words and almost completely empty of real meaning. Most compliments are reflexive and automatic. Most advice is half-formed. Most reactions are just the expected thing. But the spicy Lady Sigma's words were considered. They had real thought behind them, weight behind them, meaning behind them. That never changed. That never faded, not once. Way number 7. The spicy Lady Sigma never made her worth about him. This one cuts the deepest. Pay attention to it. The spicy Lady Sigma does not need his validation to know what she is worth. Read that one more time. Let it land. She doesn't need him to call her beautiful to feel beautiful. She doesn't need him to be impressed by her work to feel like her work matters. She doesn't need his approval before she makes a decision about her own life. She doesn't need him to confirm that she is smart, capable, worthy, or enough because she already knows all of that. Not perfectly, not without moments of real human doubt, but at her core, she has a relationship with her own worth that doesn't based on what any man thinks, says, or decides to offer her. And that specific thing is quietly devastating to a man's ego in the most important way, because most men are used to being the mirror. They're used to being the thing women look into to see how they're doing. They're used to being the ones who confirm a woman's value through their attention and affection. They've learned, sometimes consciously, sometimes not, that giving or withholding that validation is a form of power, a way to keep someone at a certain level of need, a way to stay necessary in someone's daily emotional life. The spicy Lady Sigma never gave him that position. Not because she was cold or emotionally unavailable, not because she didn't appreciate genuine connection or real, honest affirmation, but because she simply did not require external validation to function from a place of wholeness. She already had her own relationship with herself, and that relationship was solid ground. She could look at herself honestly and find someone worth respecting without needing him to hold up the mirror for her. When he complimented her, she received it warmly and genuinely, but she didn't need it. And he could feel the difference between a woman who is collecting his words like currency she depends on to get through the day, and a woman who simply enjoys the kindness without requiring it to survive. That difference changed everything about how he saw her. Because what he found in the spicy Lady Sigma was something he had almost never encountered. A woman who was fully formed before he arrived, not waiting to be completed by a relationship, not waiting for love to hand her an identity, not waiting for someone to tell her she mattered before she acted like she did. She already mattered. She already knew it. And because she knew it, she moved through the world with a quiet confidence that didn't need any audience to sustain itself. He watched that and something shifted in him permanently, because now he is around people every day who need constant reassurance, who need to be told they are loved, they are valued, they are doing okay. And he gives that genuinely and gladly. But sometimes it is heavy. Sometimes it feels like a job that never ends. Sometimes he wonders what it feels like beside a woman already whole and sure of herself that we are halfway through. Spicy Lady Sigma. And I need to ask something. Is there a spicy Lady Sigma in her life right now who needs to hear this? A friend who keeps dimming herself for the wrong person. Share this video with her right now. Don't wait, because sometimes the right message at the right time changes everything. And if a spicy Lady Sigma hasn't subscribed yet, now is the time. All right, back into it. Way number 8, the spicy Lady Sigma walked away with her head up and never looked back. The exit says everything about a woman. The way someone leaves, whether they leave cleanly or messily, whether they hold their dignity or let it fall apart in real time, that moment tells a man more about a woman than almost anything that came before it. And when things ended between the spicy Lady Sigma and him, Whether it was a friendship that slowly cooled, a situationship that ran its natural course, or a relationship that genuinely didn't go the distance. She did not beg. She did not send the long, desperate text at midnight that she would deeply regret in the morning. She did not start showing up at places where he was going to be, hoping to run into him by coincidence. She did not keep her phone close and volume high, waiting for him to come back and reconsider. She did not post things online calculated to make him feel guilt or jealousy or regret. She did not involve their mutual circle in ways designed to make her look like the obvious better person. She did not make the ending into a public scene or a private spiral. She closed the door quietly, cleanly, with every single piece of her dignity still fully intact. And that moment, that specific moment when the spicy Lady Sigma turns and walks away without looking back. That is the moment that lives in a man's memory the very longest, because almost nobody does that. Almost no one. Almost everyone, when they feel something slipping away, reaches. They fight past the point where the things still make sense. They send one more message. They make one more call. They show up one more time. They keep the ending open because closing it completely feels too final and too frightening. The spicy Lady Sigma didn't any of that. She walked away like she already knew something better was waiting on the other side. Like she trusted life enough not to grip something that wasn't working with both hands and all of her strength. Like she had enough respect for herself to refuse to beg for a seat at a table where she wasn't being fully, genuinely chosen, and something in him, even as he stood there watching her go, had to respect it. He had to acknowledge what he was seeing. He was watching someone who valued herself too completely to shrink for anyone, too completely to perform desperation, too completely to let a difficult ending cost her her own peace and dignity. That respect turned into something that mixed with the memory of who she was and became something that never fully left him. He has never been left like that since. Since then, endings have been messy and complicated, full of back and forth and late night messages, and things that stretched on long past the point they should have stopped. People have held on too tight, made it complicated, dragged things out. The spicy Lady Sigma just walked, and he still thinks about it. Not always because he wanted her back, but because that exit showed him what he has quietly been reaching for in every person since. Way number 9, the spicy Lady Sigma showed him what it looks like to be fully, unapologetically real. Here is the last one and maybe the heaviest one of all. The spicy Lady Sigma is real. Fully, completely, unapologetically real. She doesn't perform a softer version of herself designed to be easier to love. She doesn't shrink her personality so that men don't feel intimidated by what they're standing next to. She doesn't pretend to be interested in things that actually bore her. She doesn't hide the fact that she is smart or driven or complex or strong or opinionated or all of those things together at the same time. She doesn't fold up the parts of herself that feel too big, too loud, too present, or too whole. She shows up as herself all the way every single time. And that sounds so simple when you say it out loud, but really think about how rare that actually is in the real world. Most women have been taught their whole lives that being too much will push men away. That being too smart, too successful, too independent, too confident, too whole is a liability in a relationship. That if a woman wants to be chosen, she needs to stay in a certain lane, keep certain parts of herself folded out of sight, perform a gentler, softer, more agreeable version until someone decides to commit and stay. The spicy Lady Sigma refused that deal completely. Not because she was trying to be difficult or provocative, not because she didn't care deeply about genuine connection, but because she understood something deep and true. That being chosen for a performance is not really being chosen at all. That if someone falls for the edited version of a person, that person will spend the rest of their life maintaining the edit. And that is exhausting and quietly lonely and slowly suffocating in ways that are hard to name, but impossible to escape. The spicy Lady Sigma would rather be known than be chosen on a comfortable lie. So, she showed up real. She let him see the parts that were bright and the parts that were complicated and messy. She let him see her drive, her depth, her strong opinions, her fire, her flaws, all of it together. She let him sit with the full, unfiltered version of who she was. Not a highlight reel for his benefit, Not a curated performance designed to make the best first impression. The actual human being she was on an ordinary Wednesday with nothing to prove. And because she was completely real, what he felt in response was completely real, too. Not the manufactured feeling that comes from being charmed by a well-crafted performance, not the comfortable, predictable feeling that comes from being around someone safely agreeable, a real feeling. The kind that comes from actually seeing someone and being genuinely, unexpectedly moved by exactly what you see. He saw the spicy Lady Sigma, really saw her. And that kind of seeing does not just go away, because here is the truth that almost nobody says directly. Most men can feel the difference between a woman who is real and a woman who is running a performance. They both feel different. So, here is what the spicy Lady Sigma needs to walk away knowing. None of those 9 things was a strategy, not a single one. The spicy Lady Sigma didn't sit down one day and decide, okay, I am going to be so independent that he can't stop thinking about me. I am going to speak so honestly that he never forgets what it felt like to talk to me. I am going to walk away so cleanly that he spends the rest of his life wondering what he let go. None of that was calculated. None of it was a performance. None of it was a move on some board. She was playing strategically. It was just who she is, and that is the part that matters most, the part that everything else builds on, because the world is full of advice about how to get a man's attention, how to keep it, how to make yourself more appealing, more mysterious, more desirable to the right kind of person, how to text the right things and give just enough, but not too much. There are entire industries built around teaching women how to perform their way into a man's continued interest. The spicy Lady Sigma doesn't do any of that. She doesn't perform. She doesn't chase. She doesn't quietly adjust herself to match what she thinks someone else needs to see in order to stay. She just lives, fully, honestly, unapologetically. She just lives as exactly who she is. And the mark that leaves on the people who get close enough to feel it, the standard she sets without even trying, that is more powerful than any carefully planned strategy could ever be. Because strategy fades. What is real stays. Think about what that actually means in the real, day-to-day, practical world. It means the spicy Lady Sigma doesn't have to try to be unforgettable. She already is, simply by being herself, fully. It means she doesn't have to engineer her way into someone's memory or deliberately construct moments that will last. She walks into a person's memory naturally. Just by showing up as who she genuinely is. It means the most magnetic thing she carries, the thing that makes men measure every other woman against her for decades, is not a technique, not a trick, not a personality she built for public consumption. It is just her natural, real, fully expressed without apology or editing. That is extraordinary, and the spicy Lady Sigma deserves to know that about herself. But here is the other side of this that doesn't get said enough. And this channel does not do false comfort. So let's say it plainly. Being the standard, being the woman someone carries quietly in their mind, the one they use as the invisible benchmark for every person who comes after, doesn't always mean they chose her in the moment it counted. And that is the part that sometimes genuinely hurts, because sometimes the spicy Lady Sigma gets overlooked in real time. Sometimes the man goes for the easier option, the woman who adjusted herself, who made herself smaller and more agreeable and more immediately comfortable. And the spicy Lady Sigma who refused to do any of that watches it happen from a distance. And there are moments when that is genuinely painful. When being real and whole and grounded and uncompromising about her own worth feels less like a superpower and more like the reason she is standing alone. This needs to be said out loud, because this is real life, not our highlight reel. Yes, sometimes the spicy Lady Sigma is not chosen in the immediate moment. Sometimes being completely whole is genuinely intimidating to men who are not yet ready for it. Sometimes a man picks comfort over depth. Sometimes he picks familiar over fire. Sometimes he picks easy over extraordinary. And he knows it even as he does it, and that is on him, not on her. Because the spicy Lady Sigma's worth does not change based on who recognized it in any given moment. A rare piece of art does not become ordinary simply because the wrong person walked past it without stopping to look. A rare woman does not become less by being overlooked by someone who didn't have the capacity to see clearly what was standing right in front of them. The right man, when he is actually ready, sees everything. And the men who walking away, the silence, the honesty, the fact that the spicy Lady Sigma never needed his validation to know her own worth. Tell me. Because this community is full of women just like her, and her words matter here. If a spicy Lady Sigma hasn't subscribed yet, do it now, because we talk about this every week. Real conversations for real women. No fluff, no performance, just truth. And share this with a spicy Lady Sigma in your life who needs to hear it. Sometimes we forget our own power. This is just a reminder of what was always already there. I'll see the spicy Lady Sigma in the next one.